Bible reading to request divine union, Theosis, part 4. We're reading chapters 13 to 16. We're going numerically from the Old Testament, chapter 7 and 8 from the New Testament. I'm just going numerically. Of course, that would be the book of Matthew. Here, this is the cave of St. John in Patmos, and here is an image of the Holy Spirit in a woman that was baptized into the Christian Orthodox Church. Here it is, the Holy Spirit on the chalice. You can find the previous videos on my playlist on this, part 1, 2, and 3. And we're reading this because we have been told by the saints of our church that if we read 2 chapters of the Old Testament, 1 chapter of the New Testament a day in about a year, we should have the divine union with Christ. We're reading twice as much that way, so it may take half the time. So we're continue with chapter 13 of Genesis, concerning Abraham being called to go to leave the land of Ur, and he had gone to Egypt. Chapter 13 of Genesis. Abraham and Lot part ways. Now Abraham went up from Egypt to the south, he and his wife and all he had, and Lot with him. Abraham was very rich in cattle, silver, and gold. So he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel. Remember that the Pharaoh gave him treasures because he thought that his wife was his sister. Then he told him to leave after he found out that Sarai was his wife. So they went to Bethel, to a place where his tent was at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar he made there at the beginning. There Abraham called on the name of the Lord. Lot also, who went with Abraham, had flocks and herds and tents, but the land was not able to support them, so they might dwell together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. So strife arose between the herdsmen of Abraham's livestock and those of Lot's. Now the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwelled in the land at the time. So Abraham said to Lot, "That there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brethren. Is not the whole land before you? Separate from me. If you take the left, then I will go to the right. If you go to the right, then I will go to the left." Thus Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered, everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, that is, like the garden of God, like the land of Egypt as you go towards Zoar. Then Lot chose all the plains of Jordan for himself and journeyed east. So they separated from each other. Abraham dwelt in the land of Canaan, but Lot went to the city of the plain and pitched his tent even as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful before God. Then God said to Abram, after Lot separated from him, "Lift your eyes now and look for the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land you see, I give to you and your seed forever, and I will make your seed as the dust of the earth, that if a man could number the dust of the earth, then your seed also could be numbered. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its breadth, for I will give it to you." Then Abram moved his tent and went and dwelt by the oak of Mamre in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Lord. Lot's capture and rescue. Now it came to pass in the reign of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedor Laomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that they made war with Bera, king of Sodom, Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemember, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Sidon, that is, the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedor Laomer, and in the 13th they rebelled, and in the 14th year Chedorlaomer and the kings with him came and cut down the giants in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and strong nations with them, and Zuzim in Ham, the Emim in Shava Kariathaim, and the Horites in the mountains of Seir, as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and cut down all the princes of the Amalekites and also the Amorites who dwelt in Hazezon Tamar. Now the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and joined together in battle in the valley of Siddim against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. Tidal, king of nations, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim is full of asphalt pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell in there, but those left fled to the mountains. Then they took all the cavalry of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, Abraham's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. Then one who escaped camp and told Abram the Hebrew, who at the time dwelt at the oak of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshkoi and brother Aner, and they were allied with Abram. Now when Abram heard his brother Lot was taken captive, he armed 318 trained servants born in his own house, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. So he divided his forces against them by night, and he and his servants attacked and pursued them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. So he brought back all the cavalry of Sodom, and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as women and the people. The blessing of Melchizedek. Then the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the valley of Shaveh, that is, the king's valley, after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer and the kings with him. Now Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of God Most High. He blessed Abraham and said, Blessed be Abraham, not Abraham. Blessed be Abram, the God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hands. Then Abram gave him a tithe of all. Now the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the people, and keep the cavalry for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand to God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will take nothing of yours, from a thread to a sandal strap, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich, except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the man with me. Ener, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. God's covenant with Abram. That's chapter 15. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, Do not be afraid, Abram, I am your shield, and will be your exceedingly great reward. But Abram said, Lord, what will you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eleazar of Damascus, the son of Masek, my domestic maidservant? Then Abram said, Look, you have given me no offering. Indeed, my household servant is my heir. And immediately the voice of the Lord came to him, saying, This one shall not be your heir, but the one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. Then he brought him outside and said to him, Look now towards heaven, and count the stars, if you are able to number them. And he said to him, So shall your seed be. And Abram believed God, and he accounted it to him for righteousness. Then he said to him, I am the God who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans, to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, Master and Lord, how will I know I will inherit it? So he said, bring me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. So he brought all these to him and cut them in half down the middle and placed them each opposite the other. But he did not cut the birds in two. And when the vultures came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. Now around sunset a trance fell upon Abram, and behold, horror and great darkness fell upon him. Then he said to Abram, know for certain that your seed will be strangers in a land not their own, and will serve them, and they will afflict and humble them 400 years. Also the nation they serve I will judge, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. But as for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace, buried in a good old age. Then in the 4th generation they shall return here, for the sin of the Amorites is not yet filled up. And it came to pass, when the sun went down, then there was a flame, and behold, there appeared a smoking oven and lamps of fire that passed between those divided pieces. On the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, I will give this land to your seed, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates. The Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Euites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Chapter 16. Hagar and Ishmael. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bore him no children, but she had an Egyptian maidservant whose name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, see now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Go in to my maid, perhaps I shall obtain children by her. Then Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife, after Abram dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. So he went in to Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw she had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes. Then Sarah said to Abram, my wrong be upon you. I gave my maid into your embrace, and when she saw she had conceived, I became despised in her eyes. May God judge between you and me. Thus Abram said to Sarai, indeed, your maid is in your hand. Do with her as you please. So when Sarai dealt harshly with her, she fled from her presence. Now the angel of the Lord found her by the spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. Then he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from, and where are you going? She replied, I am fleeing from the presence of my mistress Sarai. The angel of the Lord then said to her, return to your mistress and humble yourself under her hand. Again the angel of the Lord said to her, I will surely multiply your seed exceedingly, that it may not be counted because of its multitude. Once again the angel of the Lord said to her, behold, you are with child, and you shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, for the Lord has taken notice of your humiliation. He shall be a rustic man, and his hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him. He shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. Then Hagar called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, you are the God who sees me. For she said, I have seen the one who appeared to me face to face. Therefore she called the well of him I saw before me. Observe, it is between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram named his son whom Hagar bore Ishmael. Now Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. Circumcision, sign of the covenant. Chapter 17. When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram. When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am your God. Be pleasing before me and blameless. I will establish my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. Then Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. I will establish my covenant between me, and your seed after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be your God and the God of your seed after you. Also I will give you and your seed after you the land you are occupying as a sojourner, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And then God said to Abraham, As for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your seed after you, throughout their generations. This is the covenant you shall keep between me and you and your seed after you throughout their generations. Every male child among you shall be circumcised, and you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. It shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. A child of 8 days old shall be circumcised by you, every male child throughout your genealogy. He who is born in your house, or bought with money from a foreigner not of your seed. He who is born in your house, and he who is bought with your money, must be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul shall be cut off from his people, for he has broken my covenant. Then God said to Abraham, As for Sarai your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and also give you a son by her, and I will bless him, and he shall become nations, and kings of people shall be from him. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his mind, Shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Then God said, No, Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and will increase and multiply him exceedingly. He shall beget 12 nations, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this time next year. So God finished talking with Abraham and departed from him. So Abraham took Ishmael his son, all who were born in his house, and all who were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that very same day as God said to him. Now Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. That very same day Abraham was circumcised, and his son Ishmael. Also all the men of his house, born in the house or bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Chapter 18, the hospitality of Abraham. Then God appeared to him at the oak of Mamre, as he was sitting in the tent door during the noon hour. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men stood before him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the ground, and said, O Lord, if I have now found grace in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let water be brought, and let them wash your feet, while you cool yourselves under the tree. Then I will bring bread for you to eat. After that you may pass by, inasmuch as you have come to your servant. And they said, Do as you have said. So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah and said, Quickly make ready 3 measures of fine meal, knead it and make cakes. Then Abraham ran to the herd, took a young calf, tender and good, gave it to his servant, and he hastened to prepare it. He also took butter and milk, and the calf he prepared, and set it before them. and he stood by them under the tree as they ate. Promise of a son. Then he said to him, Where is Sarah your wife? He replied, Here in the tent. Again he said, I will certainly return to you according to the time of life, and behold, Sarah your wife shall have a son. Sarah was listening in the tent door behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah had passed the age of childbearing. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, I have not yet had a child until now, and my Lord is old also. Then the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh within herself, saying, Shall I surely bear a child since I am old? Is anything impossible with God? At the appointed time I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied she had laughed, for she was afraid, saying, I did not laugh. But he said, No, but you did laugh. Abraham intercedes for Sodom. Then the men rose from there and looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham went along and escorted them on their journey. Then the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham my servant what I am about to do? But Abraham shall surely become a great and populous nation, and in him all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. For I know he will order his sons and his house after him. They will keep the way of the Lord, to do righteousness and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham what he has spoken to him. Then the Lord said, The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah has been completed, and their sins are exceedingly great. Therefore I will go down now and see whether or not they are carrying out the outcry coming to me concerning them. Then the men turned away from there and went towards Sodom, but Abraham remained before the Lord. So Abraham drew near and said, Would you also destroy the righteous with the ungodly? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Then the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. So Abraham answered and said, Indeed now, I who am but dust and ashes have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. But suppose there are 5 less than 50 righteous. Would you destroy all the city for lack of 5? He replied, If I find there 45, I will not destroy it. Again he spoke to him and said, But suppose there should be 40 found there. So he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 40. Then he said, Let not the Lord be offended, and I will speak. Suppose 30 should be found there. So he said, I would not destroy it if I should find 30 there. And again he said, Since I have permission to speak to the Lord, suppose 20 should be found there. So he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 20. Then he said, Let not the Lord be offended, then I will speak but once more. Suppose 10 should be found there. So he said, I should not destroy it for the sake of the 10. So the Lord went his way as soon as he finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. And now we will continue with the New Testament. Chapter 7 of Matthew. On judging others. Judge not that you not be judged, for with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, and do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, Let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Do not give what is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you into pieces. Persevering in prayer. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. Or what man is there among you who, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? Therefore, whatever you want men to do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets. The narrow gate. Enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction. And there are many who go in by it, because narrow is the gate, and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. Beware of false prophets. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, and a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. Hearing and doing Jesus' teachings. Therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. And it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. But everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain descended, and floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. And so it was when Jesus had ended these sayings that the people were astonished at his teachings, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. Chapter 8. A leper cleansed. When he had come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, a leper came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Then Jesus put his hand out and touched him, saying, I am willing, be cleansed. And Jesus said to him, See that you tell no one, but go your way, show yourself to the high priest, to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testament to them. A paralyzed servant healed. Now when Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, pleading with him, saying, Lord, my servant is lying at home paralyzed, dreadfully tormented. And Jesus said to him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak a word, and my servant will be healed. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this one, Go, and he goes, and to another, Come, and he comes, and to my servant, Do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled, and said to those who followed, Assuredly, I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. And I say to you that many will come from east and west, and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into utter darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Jesus said to the centurion, Go your way, and as you have believed, so let it be done for you. And his servant was healed that same hour. Power over infirmities. Now when Jesus had come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother lying sick with a fever. So he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she arose and served them. When evening had come, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed, and he cast out the spirits with a word, and healed all who were sick, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, He himself took infirmities and bore our sicknesses. Unconditional loyalty. And when Jesus saw great multitudes about him, he gave a command to depart to the other side. Then a certain scribe came and said to him, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Then another of his disciples said to him, Lord, let me first go and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. The storm calmed. Now when he got into a boat, his disciples followed him, and suddenly a great tempest arose on the sea, so that the boat was covered with waves. But he was sleeping. Then his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. But he said to them, Why are you fearful, O you of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. So the men marveled, saying, Who can this be, that even the winds and the sea obey him? The Gergesene demoniacs. When he had come to the other side, to the country of the Gergesenes, there met him 2 demon-possessed men coming out of the tombs, exceedingly fierce, so that no one could pass that way. And suddenly they cried out, saying, What have we to do with you, Jesus, you Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? Now a good way off from them there was a herd of many swine feeding. So the demons begged him, saying, If you cast us out, permit us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said to them, Go. So when they had come out, they went into the herd of swine, and suddenly the whole herd of swine ran violently down the steep place into the sea, and perished in the water. Then those who kept them fled, and they went away into the city and told everyone, including what had happened to the demon-possessed men. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they begged him to depart from their region. And tomorrow we'll continue with part 5. God bless you and strengthen your faith. Amen. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.